We're delighted to ask our host, the President of the Royal Irish Academy, Dr. Mary Canning, to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Good evening. On behalf of the Academy, we are delighted to host this inaugural lecture, the Chief Executive Club. And it's lovely to see you all here, to see some familiar faces and some new faces. And I hope we're going to get a chance to talk to each other a little afterwards. I am delighted to welcome on Taoiseach Micheál Martin, who has been and continues to be an enormous supporter of the Academy. Thank you, Taoiseach. We in the Academy recognise the importance of the Shared Island Initiative. In fact, I mentioned this yesterday in Trinity when we were presenting asked the Taoiseach to present the gold medals. The Shared Island Initiative is one where we feel the Academy can contribute because we are a north-south body, which makes us, I hope, a very independent, convening power for people who are thinking through issues, scholarly issues, and indeed political issues. So we've been delighted to cooperate with the Taoiseach's department on his Shared Island Initiative through the higher education futures work that the Academy has been doing. And we will be, that's been published, and we're having further discussions on that, and indeed we'll be welcoming the Royal Society here in April to continue on the extremely important issues of research and ensuring that we keep the cooperation and the bonds going through what have been very difficult and rather changing times. I won't say any more now other than to welcome you and again to thank the Taoiseach very much for his support, and over to you. Thank you.
Sorry, just to reorganise things here a bit. Thank you very much indeed, Mary, and it's a feast or a famine, but we're meeting very regularly these days. Yes, and so forth. So I appreciate your very kind comments and your presentation earlier of those publications in terms of the Aarons project and your work on 1920 in that period as well also. It's a great pleasure to be here with you this evening at Academy House to address the first Dublin meeting of the Chief Executives Club at Queen's University Belfast. Queen's University has a fine history of producing leaders who have made very significant contributions to society across the island of Ireland, in Britain, and of course around the world. And that record continues stronger than ever today in science, business, the arts, public sector, politics, and other fields, represented very well by the members of this club in attendance here in Dublin and joining online. I want to thank Professor Ian Greer, President and Vice-Chancellor of Queen's University, and Ryan Feeney for the invitation to speak with you all this evening, and the Royal Irish Academy, of course, for hosting this event. Professor Greer is also, of course, the President of Universities Ireland. As I know he will be stepping down from that role shortly, I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge his strong contribution to deepening cooperation between the 10 universities across this island. And that work is very much a part of this evening's discussion on the theme of building a shared island, a subject of particular importance at this time for the government and indeed for us all. Queen's University and its alumni exemplify the breadth of our connections, north-south on this island and east-west, and the value of deepening those relationships in the years ahead, in economic and societal terms. I'd like to set out how the government is working to do that, particularly through our Shared Island Initiative, which is founded on taking up the full potential of the Good Friday Agreement. In 1997, on her inauguration as the 8th President of Ireland, Queen's University alumnus Mary McAleese spoke of the demand of the people on this island to solve our problems by dialogue and the noble pursuit of consensus. 6 months later, that demand was affirmed in the resounding endorsement of the Good Friday Agreement by the people, North and South, in historic referendums that represented a transformational moment in this island's history. We agreed to recognise and to respect our different, equally legitimate identities, traditions and constitutional aspirations, and to work together in Northern Ireland, North-South on this island, as well as East-West for a brighter future. Much has been achieved over the past 24 years through the Good Friday Agreement, consolidating peace and normalising and developing our political, economic and societal relationships. As former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said on her installation as Chancellor of Queen's University last year, through the peace process, Northern Ireland has become a symbol of democracy's power to transcend divisions and deliver peace. But it is clear too that we have a way to go to achieve the goal of reconciliation, tolerance and mutual trust. That is at the core of the Good Friday Agreement. Too often the politics of the peace process operates as a contest of identities when it should be a pursuit of common interests. That constrains what we achieve through the institutions of the Good Friday Agreement. And it has hindered the building up of connections and trust across different communities on this island. The outworkings of Brexit, including the protocol, continue to complicate politics in Northern Ireland and North-South and East-West relationships. And the power sharing and North-South institutions of the agreement are not fully functioning at present, which is a serious concern. I acknowledge the genuinely held concerns among some of the unionist community around the protocol and its implementation. The Irish government is working very actively with our European Union partners to listen and engage on these and to seek resolutions within the agreed European Union UK framework. I'm sure many in this room will also recognise the unique economic opportunities that the protocol offers Northern Ireland. The government wants to see an agreed way forward on the protocol without delay that works in the best way possible for the people of Northern Ireland. We also want to move beyond these issues confronting us on Brexit and the protocol, to focus more on taking up shared opportunities and addressing common challenges for this island, so that we deepen cooperation in real, impactful ways that will support better connection and understanding across communities and political traditions, and work with renewed commitment through the framework of the Good Friday Agreement to build a genuinely shared, reconciled future for us all. And that is why I launched the government's Shared Island Initiative almost 18 months ago, to work with all communities and political traditions on the island to build consensus around a shared future underpinned by the Good Friday Agreement. And this involves raising the level of ambition for what we achieve through all island partnerships with the Executive, the United Kingdom Government and right across society, delivering on cross-border investment commitments and developing a new generation of projects focused on major shared challenges for North and South, and fostering inclusive civic dialogue and a comprehensive programme of research to inform our shared island policy and to help build consensus around a shared future. Backing this up through the revised National Development Plan, the government has set out an unprecedented commitment of €3.5 billion for all island investment out to 2030, including €1 billion through our Shared Island Fund. Last year, we allocated €50 million from the Shared Island Fund to move ahead with two long-standing cross-border projects, the Ulster Canal and Narrow-Water Bridge, that will be landmark recreation and sustainable tourism assets for the central and east border regions. And to commence a major new North-South research programme, which is bringing together researchers from across the island to engage in collaborative, groundbreaking work that will strengthen the island's reputation for innovation and research excellence. Last month, under the first call, the Higher Education Authority awarded over €37 million to 62 research projects, taken forward by researchers north and south and helping to inform how we respond to global, national and regional challenges that we face together on the island. There was an overwhelming level of interest and response to the programme, and I've had an opportunity already to meet a number of the researchers involved in this exciting work. Researchers from Queen's are partners in 43 of the successful projects. This is no surprise given the depth and breadth of their research networks. As I saw firsthand in visiting the university in the autumn, Queen's already engages extensively with researchers in the South across the disciplines. This experience will now help advance research across a broad range of areas, including cancer and health research, youth crime, culture and engagement, and the creation of an All-Ireland Centre of Excellence in Economics, History and Policy. We're also working across government to introduce other major new All-Ireland projects this year, supported through the Shared Island Fund, including for EV charging infrastructure, climate action, border region enterprise development, and for All-Ireland civil society partnerships. And we are seeking to work with the Executive, the United Kingdom Government, with local authorities and civil society to do more together to enhance the Shared Island for all. Last weekend, as part of my visit to Derry, I announced a new €5 million Shared Island funding scheme open to local authorities right across the island to support them in developing new cross-border capital projects together that will deliver shared regional development goals and our National Development Plan objectives. Local authorities want to work together, for instance, to deliver cross-border tourism and recreation projects, conserve natural and built heritage, protect biodiversity, and meet regional skills needs. We are backing them now to develop a pipeline of new capital investment proposals in these and other areas, with a view to accessing further funding in both jurisdictions. We are also aiming to move ahead this year with All-Ireland research hubs, backed by the Shared Island Fund and working with the Executive and the United Kingdom Government. Vice-Chancellor Greer, as Chair of Universities Ireland, has been instrumental in bringing our higher education institutions together to input significantly to the development of an approach which now has broad buy-in north and south. Hubs will bring industry, universities and research agencies together on the island to conduct world-leading R&D in areas of common priority for both jurisdictions, like cybersecurity, digital healthcare and precision medicine. By combining our capacities in these and other areas, we can go far beyond what either jurisdiction can achieve separately, enhancing the FDI offering and Indigenous enterprise base of the whole island. This is the kind of substantial cooperation and interaction that will bring us closer together in real terms on this island in the years ahead. The government is working with our partners to develop and deliver new investment, policy and cooperation projects for our shared island across all policy areas. We also want to deepen cooperation in higher and further education on this island, which offers benefits for institutions and students alike, not least to support student mobility, so that more young people take up the option to go north or come south to study. Minister Simon Harris is commissioning work this year to examine how we can do more to foster student mobility both on this island and between Ireland and Britain. I also want to acknowledge the valuable work undertaken by the Royal Irish Academy's Higher Education Futures Task Force in developing a vision for the sector to support talent, research, skills, sustainability and equality on the island of Ireland in the years to 2035. This is a most important contribution to inform how we develop our third level sector over the coming years, underpinned by greater north-south interaction and collaboration. Our Shared Island initiative also involves a comprehensive programme of published research to scope out opportunities and challenges in looking at how we can better share this island. My department has commissioned the Economic and Social Research Institute to undertake a broad programme of shared island work, looking last year at the services economy, FDI, healthcare and education systems and outcomes, north and south, and a suite of other sectoral issues in 2022. This is contributing a better evidence base and high quality analysis on the island as a whole. Next week, the National Economic and Social Council will publish a major report to government on Shared Island, Shared Opportunity. Informed by broad consultation over the last year, the Council is making a series of recommendations to government on how we could deepen beneficial cooperation on the island across a range of environmental, social and economic issues. We will positively consider these recommendations and seek to take them forward in consultation with the Executive, the United Kingdom Government and other partners. And I also want to welcome the work of the Academy's Aaron's project, which is exploring political and policy considerations for Ireland, North and South, in a post-Brexit context in an open, inclusive, broad-based way. Inclusive civic dialogue is also at the heart of our Shared Island approach, and I'd like to conclude with a few words on that. I launched a Shared Island dialogue series over a year ago to provide a space for inclusive civic conversations to inform how we work to build consensus around a shared future on this island. Since then, over 1,300 civic representatives have participated from across all sectors, communities and regions on the island. We are ensuring the inclusion of voices not sufficiently heard in the peace process, in particular women, young people and ethnic minorities. Through the dialogue series, the government is listening to people's views on a wide range of concerns for the future of this island. For instance, on climate action, healthcare cooperation, economic recovery, tourism and sport. The dialogues are also engaging with societal issues for the whole island around identity, culture, equality and inclusion. A dialogue on education in October, which Professor Greer participated in, put a timely focus on how we shape the future of the sector on an island-wide basis, including on how we work more strategically to address persistent educational underachievement, which is imperative in consolidating peace and prosperity, and how we provide more opportunities for our young people to better know and understand each other from different community and regional backgrounds at all levels of education, and in how curriculums are delivered. These are vital concerns in building a more reconciled society on this island. The government is working to put greater focus on them in civic discourse and in our partnerships with the Executive and the United Kingdom Government. The Shared Island dialogues are also leading to important new all-island initiatives led directly by civil society, like the National Women's Council All-Island Women's Forum and the iCommunity project led by the Wheel and the Northern Ireland Council for Voluntary Action. The government is taking account of what civil society on the island is saying in the dialogues. In our approach to public investment through the National Development Plan and in how we work to deepen our North-South and East-West partnerships through the Good Friday Agreement. And we will continue to listen to, engage with and champion inclusive civic dialogue and engagement as a core part of our Shared Island initiative. 15 years ago, yesterday, the late Ian Paisley travelled to Dublin to meet with the then Taoiseach Bertie Ahern. Dr. Paisley spoke of how both leaders could confidently state that they were making progress. He acknowledged flourishing business opportunities and the development of genuine respect for the understanding of each other's differences and similarities. That landmark meeting was part of a move on from a difficult period in Northern Ireland politics when the Executive had been absent for almost 5 years. Through sustained political effort and commitment to the principles, institutions and aims of the Good Friday Agreement, progress that many thought was impossible in the peace process was achieved. And there was much optimism that we were slowly but surely deepening reconciliation by working through the agreement. At this time, we need once again to recapture that spirit of hope. In next month's Assembly election, the people of Northern Ireland will provide a democratic mandate for the devolved power-sharing institutions. This is a consequential moment in the midst of another challenging period for political relationships in Northern Ireland. The progress achieved since 1998 must be protected and sustained. The way forward is for all political leaders to live up to the commitments of the Good Friday Agreement, which are overwhelmingly supported by people across the island, to see all of the political institutions of the agreement working and delivering for people, to reaffirm partnership, equality and mutual respect as the basis of our political relationships, and to work in our common interests for a shared, reconciled future for all, underpinned by the Good Friday Agreement. That is a goal of utmost priority for the government as a co-guarantor of the Good Friday Agreement. And we are significantly prioritising, resourcing and delivering an agenda to support it through our Shared Island initiative. In closing, I want to ask the Chief Executives Club at Queen's to help with this endeavour. You are a network of leaders who understand and contribute to north, south and east-west connections through your alma mater and in your careers in businesses today. Your collective expertise across enterprise, civil society and higher education has much to offer in deepening cooperation and connections. We can all make a positive contribution to building a shared island. As your university's Chancellor, Secretary Hillary Clinton, said last year, the answers for a peaceful, prosperous future will be determined by the power of communities coming together, like the one here at Queen's. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts this evening.
Well, thank you, Taoiseach, for an excellent lecture, and I'm sure there is plenty of questions and debate to follow on. So we're going to do a bit of a fireside chat now. We have a bit of time pressure, so we have about 25-30 minutes. There are some pre-submitted questions that people have kindly put in, so I'll be referring to people on the floor throughout. But Taoiseach, I'm going to ask the first question, the privilege of being the chair. And you've talked about the Shared Island Initiative, and you've outlined some very interesting initiatives and programmes which are coming up to expand the idea of the Shared Island. But what do you see as the legacy of the Shared Island Initiative in 5-10 years' time when you're out of office and look back at this programme that you've set up? Where would you like it to be?
Well, you've more than 25 minutes if you want. Fundamentally, as simply as saying better relationships, better understanding of people from different communities and different backgrounds. That would be the fundamental objective, that there's no issues around people doing sensible, practical things together, and that we would work in common pursuit of issues that are of mutual concern to us all, as I outlined in my contribution. And it's been very interesting in the civil dialogue that there's also need to understand what I see as emerging new centre ground thinking in Northern Ireland as well about issues around identity, who I am as a person, as has come across in some of the presentations. I thought Patrick Keelty's presentation, one of the dialogues was really interesting and insightful. I think it was Andrew Trimble, sorry, on RTE sometime back on the Claire Byrne show. I think gave very interesting insights as well, which kind of takes away the stereotypical views that we have of each other. And that's the most important thing, that we really generate this ongoing dialogue, particularly among younger generations who are coming at all of this from a different perspective. And I think we need to encourage and facilitate greater dialogue between younger people. And I was struck when I was at COP26, I met a group who have now formed an all-island climate biodiversity network on the island of Ireland. I mean, for them, it's not about politics, it's not about a border, it's about facing an existential threat for all of us.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to the floor, and Anne McGregor, the Chief Executive of the Northern Ireland Chamber of Commerce, has her first question. Anne?
Good evening, Taoiseach. I'm very welcome to hear all your update on the Shared Island Fund. I just wanted to ask about UK and Ireland's relationship at present. It seems strained, and wonder how, because of Brexit, I wonder what action we can take to rebuild that relationship.
Well, personally, the relationship is good. But Brexit has complicated it, and the protocol has complicated it, and unfortunately the British-Irish dynamic at the moment is very much through the prism of the protocol, and and it's delaying what should be a more dynamic, in my view, post-Brexit Irish-British situation. So, there is plenty of room for us, and we've discussed this, myself and the British Prime Minister, that we really need to develop a post-Brexit relationship that replaces some of the regularity of meetings, for example, that we would have had at the European Union, which was very, very regular. We would meet very often at EU Council meetings. Officials would meet, civil servants would meet. But only last week I met with a whole range of Secretary Generals from the UK government who came to meet their counterparts in Dublin Castle, actually only last week. We had a very good engagement there. We've had a number of good engagements in the last year through the British Irish Council, through bilateral meetings with the Prime Minister. The most recent being at the rugby match, which was very, sorry, I should be careful. Very enjoyable, and we discussed the merits of French refereeing and so on like that. But the point being is that the personal level is good. I think that Brexit issue is a problem, and I believe we can resolve it with political will. And I think the United Kingdom and the European Union, that's where the channel of negotiations is. But we've been very helpful as a government to try and sensitise the Commission to the issues in the north. Sefcovic, Vice President, has gone to the north. He has met all of the parties and all of the business interests in the north. And I think it is important that we resolve it, but I am concerned, particularly in the context of the electoral contest and so on, that it could be a very challenging post-election period. But in short, we do need to pick it up. I was in London for a weekend prior to going to Washington, and it was very positive.
Just following on from Anne's question, Taoiseach, we have a very unique set of relationships in terms of Strand 3 of the Good Friday Agreement. Do you think that the British Irish Council could be a solution to some of the issues that we're facing at the moment around Brexit? Not so sure it can be. I think the real solution is between the European Union and the United Kingdom government. I find the British Irish Council a very good forum for meeting with all of the leaders, and we learn a lot at that, and it's quite informative. I mean, one can see from the Welsh perspective, the Scottish perspective, a negativity about Brexit, a real negativity about it. They feel it's impacting negatively on their situation economically. I met with the First Minister of Wales in the autumn. He's very, very concerned about the trading issue for Wales. And I actually felt at that meeting prior to Christmas that we were more hopeful then of an earlier resolution of the protocol issues than subsequently transpired. So it is a very useful forum. But ultimately, this has to be resolved in the European Union-UK dialogue. And Ireland is part of that in the context of our membership of the European Union. A lot of progress has been made, doesn't get said, and in terms of minimising the level of checks and so forth. And Vice President Sefcovic did come forward with a lot of advancements, we put it that way, or concessions, just as not as a fait accompli or as the final narrative, but really as a basis to have further discussions. And I think that's the spirit that we should continue. And one thing I have noticed, no one has said to me, we do not want access to the EU single market. So irrespective of people's position on Brexit, people in Northern Ireland want continued access to the single market because that is beneficial to companies. No question about that, I think. Okay, our next question is from Brendan Keenan.
Yes, and it's on the same topic really, Taoiseach, what you've just said there and what you've said in the lecture, which I thoroughly enjoyed, about listening yourself and the EU, what's being said about the protocol. Even in broad terms, have you any thoughts as to where this might go forward to remove some of those concerns and really establish a much happier relationship?
Yeah, I think, first of all, when I would have met all of the leaders of all parties some time back, and I meet them quite regularly, and particularly Unionist party leaders as well, and we heard the concerns, and Vice President Sefcovic went to meet the parties. So there was I felt he made a very genuine effort, and he came forward with proposals. Now, I felt Lord Frost at the time probably, unfortunately, came in on the eve of that to try and, in my view, negatively undermine what was a genuine effort to move forward. And I think in doing that, he narrowed the scope of Unionist leaders to respond maybe in a more generous way, put it that way. And I think that was a missed opportunity. And I think if further opportunities arrive like that, we can't miss them. And I do believe that Europe is sensitive to the concerns of the unionist community. We are too. And if there's a political will, I think we can resolve this. I think it will be after the election. And I think everybody working together, I think, can bring this about. I also would say that given the bigger geopolitical issues at stake, the fact that the United Kingdom government is a key player in responding to the Russian aggression and the Russians' barbaric war on Ukraine, that is appreciated across Europe. It's appreciated particularly by the Eastern European countries. And I think UK has given a strong leadership position on this. And I think that context could be helpful in terms of bringing about a resolution of this. Because what it brings home, something I've been saying long in advance of this war, that democracy around the world is in retreat, authoritarianism is on the increase. Like-minded democracies like the United Kingdom, the European Union, Canada, United States, Japan and many others, we need to work constructively together, not have sort of phony wars about matters that can be resolved. There's bigger issues at stake for us all. And that, I think, hopefully will be the sort of framework within which we kind of get these issues sorted.
Okay, our next question is from Owen McMullen, who's the Chair of Convocation at Queen's, which represents our alumni voice within the university. Owen.
Thanks, and Taoiseach, thank you for your insightful address this evening. Bringing it just back around to the business side, I suppose I'm wondering, how can we improve, or how do you think we can improve all-island economic development?
I've been very impressed so far by the Northwest Development Group. I always get they're the two councils, Derry Strabane and Donegal. They've come together. They put politics outside the door, and it's very coherent. They're only, well, not only, but their clear interest is the economic and social development, and they look at it regionally. And so when I was in Derry last week, I had a very good visit to Alton Hospital, and met the consultants in cancer care. And you know, the Irish government would have contributed to a major cancer centre in Alton. It covers the region. And to me, you know, Donegal's healthcare system and Alton and Derry makes more sense than we sending patients from Donegal down to Galway and long journeys. And that was proven then when they brought me to the cardiology, and we're involved in cardiology there. And I met a Donegal man who had just had a heart attack the previous day. Well, he had a heart attack. It sounds kind of like he was talking to me, so but you know what I mean? And basically, he was explaining to me how he got pains in the chest, couldn't make up the stairs, etc., etc. Hadn't really thought much about it. Went in, and he had 25 minute visit to Alton from St. Johnson. In he goes, gets 2 stents, and he's fine. And he was going out. He's out now, I think, you know. So my point being, that's the pragmatic impact of this. And that's a very impressive group, and they concentrate on that kind of stuff. We were in McGee as well, and we were trying to do collaborative work there. So I think the councils are getting on with it, and that's why we gave them that seed money to say, look, okay, you need some resources to produce projects. We get that, so here's some seed money that you can collectively work together if you have a common project of interest that benefits both. Off you go. Economically then, Enterprise Ireland, Invest Northern Ireland, I think are working closer together, and we have an interesting project coming up with enterprise parks on both sides of that northwest border as well, which would be the creation of business parks by city deals, I think, the Catalyst group, and then in Letterkenny as well, to attract investment in and to develop opportunities for indigenous enterprise. I believe common trade missions where businesses go on trade missions, either organised by Invest Northern Ireland or organised by Enterprise Ireland. That has happened and is happening, and we need to do that more and more, because when companies get together, they learn a lot from each other, particularly entrepreneurs. And there's a very good buzz about Northern Ireland on the entrepreneurial side, I feel, which doesn't get said often enough. When I was in London, actually, people in the financial services district, because the first Irish citizens to become Lord Mayor of London is Vincent Keaveney and so on. So he had a lot of that kind of circle with him at the dinner we were at. But they were talking about the North, and they were talking about the Northwest for investment purposes. So I think we need to drive that on. And no more than the South, sometimes that enterprise agenda doesn't get spoken enough about in political terms. The same applies in Dáil Éireann. You know, we get overly consumed sometimes about the politics of things. The bread and butter of the island is our capacity to export, to generate new products, new solutions, and innovation, and sell it to the world. And that's our bread and butter as a people, and sometimes we don't have that discussion amongst our people enough, in my view.
Okay, well, the final question, Taoiseach, and you alluded to this in your lecture, is around cooperation in higher education on the island. And you've rightly stated about our own Vice-Chancellor as the President of Universities Ireland, coordinating and bringing people together in that format to try and enhance cooperation in research and student movement. How do we improve that? Is this something that NSMC should look at as a new area of cooperation, or is this something that the Shared Island Unit should look at, because it is becoming a more prevalent issue for people across the island?
Yes, we're going to look at that. I think it can be looked at through the North-South Ministerial Council when it gets back up and running, but we can't hang around forever too. So I think, you know, through the Shared Island, through the universities and the agencies. For example, in Magee, where the new medical programme, postgraduate degree program, for example, students from the South who are studying there can't get placements in the South, which is not, that's the kind of stuff that annoys me, you know, in terms of clinical placements and so on like that. And I think 50% of this, which I didn't know, 50% of the students there are from the Republic. But we need to work, I think, better on, you see, all of us in policy terms and in political life. And when I was an education minister a long time ago, someone said to me, you know what, education has to be about the learner, not the institution. And if we put the learner at the centre of what we are about, all the issues should disappear. So we should facilitate student mobility in the interests of the student. Institutions may complain or might find their domains threatened or their qualifications, systems and so on. All that can be resolved. That comment was made to me in the context of we bringing in the qualifications framework over 25, 30 years ago here. Why? Because there was a lot of snobbery between institutions, like if we call a spade a spade. There wasn't proper pathways for learners from further education to third level. And so I think that's what we need to do. But also, just one of my passions is, and I referenced it there, the most important thing I think we can do is really work on education at disadvantage. Work with communities where there's a low pattern of progression to second level completion and third level. And we really would appeal to the third level colleges, north and south, to accelerate that because at yesterday's RIA presentation, I thought was very interesting. I think it was Professor McIlwain, am I right, said that when she's won the gold medal of the Royal Irish Academy for her area, and I picked up what she said, that when she was going to college, only 1% of her community went to college. I think she said today it's about 10%. I thought it was brilliant that someone at that standing now and internationally renowned researcher, that was her main point yesterday. In the north, from my own experience of working in different ministries, I've always been concerned about the fact that in certain areas, the level of participation in education is low. And I would have thought if we want to consolidate future relationships, we have to give the young people in those communities opportunities, and we need a kind of a Marshall Aid type comprehensive plan involving the executive, the British government and the Irish government to make that happen once and for all. And it's a long-term thing, and you have to keep at it. And we've initiated it in the Republic for a long, long time, and there are still communities in the Republic where participation rates are not where they are. But the second level completion now in the Republic is, I think we're up to 91% and beyond. But we've afforded a challenge to get that last 10%.
Okay, that's a very positive note to which we can conclude. So thank you, Taoiseach. And now to conclude proceedings, I'd ask the President and Vice-Chancellor of Queen's University, Professor Ian Greer.
Well, thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Taoiseach, not just for your enlightening remarks this evening, which has given us much food for thought, but also for your commitment to the whole of this island, and indeed for your inclusive approach to Northern Ireland, which is greatly appreciated, and of course for your vision in setting out the shared island approach. When I started at Queen's 4 years ago, I was asked what my priorities were. And I said partnership and collaboration. Partnership and collaboration within the organisation, across Northern Ireland, across this island, across these islands, across the world. Because only through partnership and collaboration do you build trust. Only through partnerships and collaboration do you bring communities together to create that more holistic approach to our society and our economy. The Taoiseach talked of north-south mobility. And all too often we hear about north-south or east-west. I'd like to reframe that with a more triangular relationship that would bring Dublin, Belfast and London together around shared initiatives, shared priorities, shared societal and economic values. And I believe that universities can contribute to doing that. We've got limited resources in this island for higher education. Every society has got limited resources. So we've got a responsibility to use these resources wisely. And that means working together across the tertiary education sector. In the north, working across further education and higher education. And as the Taoiseach said, there's no reason why we can't do that north and south of the border. Why don't we create a more fluid system where you can start off in a further education system and move to Queen's, or indeed start at a university like Ulster or Queen's or Trinity and move to a different college if it's the right place for you and the right time in your career. We've all got a challenge with widening participation. In Queen's we're really proud because 31% of our intake last year came from the bottom to the most disadvantaged socio-economic quintiles. That's a remarkable achievement and one that we want to build on and one that resonates, I believe, across this island. When I think about partnership, I think about a quadruple helix approach. I think of universities working with government, working with business, working with communities to create a virtuous spiral of success. That's what we want for our society and for our economy. And the universities on this island are well placed to deliver on that. We really can change people's lives, transform them for the better, and do good for our economy. In Northern Ireland, we've got a set of regional growth deals, injections of cash, if you will, and investments to drive economic growth, the Belfast Region City deal, the Derry deal, and these deals are starting to work together. So they bring business, universities, communities, local government together to make a real difference. This should have a massive impact. And when we set out on that journey 4 years ago, we thought, wouldn't it be great if there was something like that across the island of Ireland? And then along came the Taoiseach with his shared island vision and in truly delivered that agenda for us with his shared island approach. And we've all become beneficiaries of it because fostering that north-south collaboration through research has been really important to us in our sector, and we believe that the influence on our sector will permeate other sectors. As you've heard, substantial investment, over 37 million euros just in the last few weeks announced, 62 projects across north-south of this island, with more than 40 coming to Queen's. Examples are, for example, a collaboration with TUS looking at cybersecurity, or with Limerick on cancer data, and that builds on really important initiatives that we have already in this island. Recently, we saw the two agriculture ministers announce Food Eye that brought the main organisations linked to food and agriculture together. We know that there's a growing interest in further developing an all-island cancer research development that can really drive forward the quality of care and the outcomes for the disease. So we believe that we're set at a very good time to make a real difference. The opportunities are there, and if the universities can help you deliver it, Taoiseach, we're only too glad to do so. So I should now close by thanking the people involved in making this happen. We need to thank the Academy and Mary for a warm introduction and for hosting us. I need to thank the business engagement team at Queen's. And of course, I have to thank again the Taoiseach for his inspirational leadership. This is our first Chief Executives Club event in Dublin. I think it's been a success, and I know much of that success has been due to your inspirational address. So thank you for delivering such an important moment for Queen's as we set out on a journey to renew a regular commitment and regular interaction here in Dublin with your government and with your people. Thank you.